The Red Sox have some decisions to make regarding who and who not to give a qualifying offer to once MLB free agency begins.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. That's BetOnline, where the game starts. Happy Friday! I am your host, NESN's Lauren Willand. It's Friday. We made it through another week, and we made it through another week without Red Sox baseball. So we're going to talk about the qualifying offers, who on the Red Sox are eligible for them, and just kind of what the qualifying offer is, because I think most of us know it's just a deal that some players get throughout other teams, but not everyone is eligible. So we know the Red Sox want to improve this team. And in order to do that, they need to bring back and re-sign specific players, specifically Xander Bogaerts and Rafael Devers. But some of those players are up for qualifying contracts. Bogaerts potentially being one of them. Devers, he's still under contract, so not quite yet. And others will become free agents once the World Series is over. So we're going to talk about the players who are up for qualifying offers and whether the Red Sox should really extend one to said player. But first, what exactly is the qualifying offer? So this was introduced in 2012, and a free agent can be made a qualifying offer only if he has been with the same team continuously since opening day and has never received one before. A qualifying offer can be made through the fifth day after the World Series, and a player has about a week to accept or turn it down. This year, it is a 1-year deal worth $19.65 million. And per MLB, this figure is determined by the average of the top 125 major league contracts this year. The price dropped by $100,000 to $17.8 million in 2019, then rose to $18.9 million in 2020 and fell $500,000 last year. So this year it is $19.65 million. The Red Sox have extended qualifying offers to players 6 different times. The most recent one being Erod last year, who obviously declined it and signed elsewhere. And of those 6 times, no Red Sox player has ever accepted a qualifying offer. Could that change this year? We are going to soon find out. Let's just jump right in. Xander Bogaerts, the biggest question mark of this offseason. He can receive a qualifying offer if he decides to opt out of his current deal. If he opts in, which he's not expected to do, obviously he doesn't need a qualifying offer. So if he opts out, the Red Sox probably will extend him the $19.65 million QO, and Bogaerts probably will decline because he's looking for a longer-term, higher money contract, which he certainly deserves. So a lot kind of has to happen not really a lot. He just has to opt out of his deal, which like we all know he's going to do. I think that the biggest shock of the offseason would be if he opted into his deal. I don't think there's any way that happens. And I do know that the Boston Globe reported on Thursday that an 11th hour deal is very unlikely for Bogaerts. So it sounds like he is going to test the free agent market, which I think every player should do. I think you absolutely should see what is out there, who thinks what, like kind of see what your market is and then decide. I love that players, maybe not so much Xander Bogaerts, but I love when players decide to go test the free agent market, kind of bet on themselves and see what is out there. Bogaerts absolutely has earned that right to do that. And I hope that he does come back to the Red Sox. But per the Boston Globe, it does not sound like they're going to get a deal done before free agency starts. So it sounds like he's going right to free agency. Hopefully the Red Sox back up their words, what they've said, that he's the number one priority. But we don't need to keep exhausting this Xander Bogaerts talk. Let's move on to Eovaldi. He is also eligible. And he's an interesting one here because it's not really clear what the Red Sox will do. Do they want to extend a near $20 million offer to somebody who struggled to stay healthy last year, but otherwise was solid and efficient during his tenure with the Red Sox? Do they let him walk? When he was on the mound in 2022, he was rather efficient. He was limited to just 109 and third innings, finished with 3.87 ERA. He is injury prone. We know this. We are very familiar with this. which could make the Red Sox a little bit iffy to want to extend him a qualifying offer. But there are a lot of pros here. He's got a good work ethic. He's well liked in the clubhouse, obviously among the fans. He knows the organization. And if he is offered it, I think he should accept it because I doubt he'll get much more than the 19.65 on the open market. But you never know. We have seen crazier things happen, and he's still reliable. He is still an efficient part to a team. He's obviously a proven major league pitcher. He's a World Series champion, and he will do whatever it takes to help this team win. We saw him nearly throw his arm out in 2018, clean off. He would have pitched until his arm literally fell off in 2018 during the World Series, that 18-inning marathon of a game. But with Eovaldi, what makes him really interesting as well is somebody else who is on the roster who does qualify for a qualifying offer. And I don't think they're going to offer both of these players a qualifying offer. It's one or the other. Who is the other, you ask? I will tell you about that in our second segment of the Locked On Red Sox, just as soon as I tell you about BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for betting football and the start of the new basketball season. The Celtics are in full swing. You can find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth analysis on every single game. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all of your sports wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every single sport out there. It's the fastest and the easiest way to check in on all of your favorite games and events, including MLB, especially the World Series. These are some really exciting games we have going on right now. MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and the action. BetOnline, where the game starts. And be sure to check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast, from the games that matter to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with our local experts and insights that only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today is available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube and the Odyssey app. So continuing with our qualifying offer talk, like I teased in the first segment, if the Red Sox offer a qualifying offer, or extend a qualifying offer to Nate Eovaldi, they likely will not extend one to Michael Wacha and vice versa. So I think the Red Sox 1000% should extend Wacha a qualifying offer after essentially becoming the ace of the staff last year. He did everything and more and was truly an X factor, a big surprise, a very pleasant surprise for the Red Sox in 2020-22. But I don't think you can have both players, both Wacha and Eovaldi, on your team at almost $40 million for two aging, two injury-prone pitchers. I think that is a big risk for the Red Sox to take. They both were injured at times last year. We know of all these injury history. Wacha also has an injury history as well. But I do think if you're taking the chance on one of them, I go to Wacha. He's certainly deserving of the pay bump from the $7 million he made last year, and $19.65 billion is a pretty big increase. I certainly would like that, but if he does get the qualifying offer, he obviously can deny it. And if he thinks he can get more than the 19.65, go for it 100%. Like I said, bet on yourself every single time. But I think he'd be wise to accept the qualifying offer if he has extended one. But I can also see the whole I'm going to bet on myself. He really good season last year. Even when he was on the IL, pitched in Portland, and I was at the game when he got hit with the comebacker right in his foot. It was the day Chris Sale broke his wrist. So I was like, this is bad. The Red Sox, they might as well just like mercy roll. There needs to be some sort of mercy roll for the season. And he still, he didn't miss any time. He didn't get pulled from the game or anything in Portland. And he still came back to the Red Sox and was still the best pitcher. He had the best record. He was efficient. He had a complete game. He was just a very good version of Michael Wacha. I don't know if we're going to get that exact same version of Michael Wacha next year if he is to come back to the Red Sox. But if you can get even some of that, that's a good sign. This team needs to improve, and I think Michael Wacha should be a part of the 2023 Red Sox. Yes, I think that means if, like I said, if he does get the qualifying offer, I don't think Eovaldi gets one. So there is some picking and choosing here, or the Red Sox could just go ahead. We're not going to give it to either one of them. Have fun on the free agent market. Maybe we can bring you back for less than the 19.65. I don't think anyone on the open market is going to pay Eovaldi more than 19.65. Maybe Wacha, but I doubt it. It's easy for me to sit here and say I would certainly accept almost $20 million for a year, but I am not in their position. I'm not an athlete, and I am not somebody who is in their position. So there are, a lot of decisions to be made. And I keep going back to Chaim Bloom saying that, or telling Kike Hernandez that he does want this team to be better. He promised this Red Sox team will be better in 2023. That's a lot of what got Kike Hernandez to sign an extension here with the Red Sox. So I think we'll kind of have a better idea. Obviously, we'll have a better idea once the World Series ends. And I think Bogaerts is a huge factor here. I mean, of course, he's a huge factor here. If you want to spend a lot of money on him, you have to do that pretty quick. Now, I've mentioned this before that I don't think it's going to be a fast process. I think it's going to be a busy offseason for the Red Sox, but a long offseason for the Red Sox. But one person I do not think is going to get a qualifying offer, and he's last, but certainly not least, is JD Martinez. It's unfortunate, but I just can't see him getting one. And he's done everything he's been asked to do since signing here in 2018, put it down 2022, coupled with being 35. It's probably a big ask to pay him nearly $20 million after paying him $19.35 million for the last 5 seasons. With other players, the Red Sox need to focus on signing and spending money on bigger glaring needs. They probably do not offer him one. However, if they do, if for whatever reason they do, Martinez would be silly not to accept it. I think he was very smart to not opt out of his deals the 3 times he could with the Red Sox. I think he genuinely enjoyed playing here, and he was a big part to this team, especially in 2018. He was that true DH that the Red Sox had been missing since David Ortiz. He was no David Ortiz. No one is going to be David Ortiz, but he was that DH. And yes, you could theoretically put him in the outfield. It was not always a good time, but he was reliable at the plate. He was so fun to watch. And it was unfortunate to see his decline and see just kind of him aging because he's been so good for this team. But I just don't think you pay someone who's 35 years old. He just turned 35 in August, but I don't think you pay somebody who's aging, who also is injury prone, nearly $20 million when you have, again, glaring needs that need to be met. Listen, if JD Martinez is still out on the market when you've got all your ducks in a row and you feel comfortable with your team and maybe you don't have a DH, sure, give him a call. But I don't think it's smart to offer him a qualifying offer. But if the Red Sox do, 100%, he'll accept that thing so fast. And he'd be dumb not to, because that's a lot of money that he'd be passing up after a down year. But I think JD Martinez's time with the Red Sox, unfortunately, has come to an end. But when one door closes, one must open, right? That's what they say. That's what I'm choosing to believe. So we'll have more answers once the World Series ends. Are you guys having fun watching the World Series? This is so wild to me that the Phillies and Astros have just gone back and forth the way that they have. The Phillies are hitting home run after home run after home run, and then get combined no hit the following game. I love baseball. How can you not be romantic about baseball? And yes, there is that Red Sox connection with Kyle Schwarber and Christian Vasquez. I'm so happy for Vasquez catching the combined no-hitter in Game 4. I thought that was just a really cool moment for him. Obviously, Kyle Schwarber hitting the home runs, and we saw that in the ALCS with the Red Sox last year. He had a grand slam against the Astros. So it's fun in that regard that you get to watch or maybe it's not really so much fun because you're thinking, what could have been? And why did the Red Sox trade Vasquez? And why didn't they even try to re-sign Schwarber? They claim they did, but the numbers just weren't there. But anyway, back to JD Martinez. If there is that need for him, but you wonder if there will be that specific need for a DH, because is Tristan Casas going to be your full-time first baseman? What do you do with Eric Hosmer, who probably won't opt out of his deal? Do you maybe put him in the DH position, maybe platoon him and Casas so you can have Casas at DH at times when you don't want him to play at first, especially he's dealing with an injury right now, but doesn't seem to be too serious. No one really seems to be too worried. But obviously with the high ankle sprain he suffered last year, and that wasn't supposed to be too serious, we're going to be extra super cautious with Tristan Casas. But there's just a lot of moving parts here for the Red Sox. I think there's a lot of questions going into this offseason, and we're getting close now. By the weekend, if this World Series goes 7 games, we'll know very soon what Xander Bogaerts decides to do, what players will and won't get qualifying offers. We'll see these players, if they don't get qualifying offers or if they decline the qualifying offer, probably go somewhere else. So it's probably going to start quick in terms of the qualifying offers, accepting, denying. and then Xander Bogaerts. I would not be surprised if Xander Bogaerts opts out right away, gets the qualifying offer, takes the week to deny it, and then winter meetings. And I just think it's going to be a very drawn out process for Bogaerts. But I think it's going to be a busy one too. I think that there's going to be, understandably, a ton of interest in him. I think there'll be a lot of rumors flying of teams are offering him this, teams are offering that, the Red Sox offered this. There's going to be a lot of that when it comes to Bogaerts, and that's to be expected. He's probably going to be very coveted this offseason, but the Red Sox need to do their job. They need to look at this list of players who have qualifying offers coming up and decide who is important to this future and who we need to kind of let go. Even though they've been important to this team at some point, we can't keep living in the past. Now we have to look toward 2023 and beyond. If Chaim Bloom really wants this team to be competitive and much better than it was in 2022, he needs to get busy, and he needs to get busy real quick. We have one more segment here for the Locked On Red Sox podcast. As always, we're going to end this show on the Mental Health Minute. So for today's Mental Health Minute, we turn the clocks back this weekend. And while I'm excited to get that extra hour of sleep, I am not excited to have it be dark at like 4:30. If you're watching on YouTube, you can kind of see out my window that it's pretty dark right now, and it is 5:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it's getting dark. And it's so just kind of depressing because I love the long nights, or the when the sun is out till 8:30 at night. This sun going down at like 4 o'clock is not for me, but I think this is a good time to just remember to, seasonal depression, if it hasn't set in already, it's probably creeping up pretty close. Just a gentle reminder to take care of yourself and maybe get one of those sunset lamps or the sunrise lamps. I have not bought one. It's been on my Amazon cart for like a year, and I just haven't pulled the trigger yet, but I do know that I probably should get one because not only is it very hard for me to wake up in the mornings, but we don't get a lot of sunlight in our house after a certain hour, and just kind of have that, the fake sun, even, and it kind of emulates the sun, would probably be very helpful for me. Just try to make sure you're taking advantage of the sunlight hours and just try to enjoy being outside, especially we're going to have a very warm weekend here in New England, a very uncharacteristically warm weekend in New England for November. So just try to enjoy what we can when we can, and just, I know I said this in our last episode, but just to take care of yourself. Make sure you're putting yourself first, and make sure you're getting your adequate rest, adequate sunlight, all that good stuff. Thank you for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every single day. Please rate, review, and subscribe to Locked On Red Sox right here on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast is where you can find us. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at LO_Red Sox. Jake at Jake Iggy. He is enjoying some Florida sunshine. He's visiting his grandmother, so I'm really excited for him. He'll be back next week. Hopefully he brings the warm weather with him. You can also find me on Twitter at Lauren, 3 Laws, Lauren with 4 R's. Be sure to check out Locked On Phillies and Locked On Astros. These two are head-to-head in the World Series right now. They're having a grand old time over there, bringing you content after every game. They're doing such a good job killing it over there. Which team will win? We will soon find out. Now that you've made Locked On Red Sox your first listen, make your second listen to Locked On Sports Today podcast. From the games that matter to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard, behind the scenes with local experts and insights that only Locked On can provide. It's available wherever you get your podcast. They also do this great thing, my favorite thing. It's called the Take of the Day. There's instant reactions to games. It is a great listen. Locked On Sports Today is available on YouTube, on the Odyssey app, wherever you get your podcast, just like Locked On Red Sox. We will be back on Monday. I have such an exciting interview for you guys on Monday. I am so excited for this. I will be talking to the wife of a former Red Sox player, very prominent Red Sox player. He pitched for the Red Sox. That's all the clues I'm going to give you. Kind of vague, but I'm very excited for it. We're going to bring you a great episode next week. Until then, have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. As always, let's go Red Sox.